Are you looking to transform your own desert property or landscape? Well, you've come to the right place. We're a little over 1 year into transforming our desert landscape into a lush food forest as well as permaculture landscape. So I want to show you all the different varieties of rainwater harvesting techniques and practices that we have around the property that maybe you might find of benefit and use to you. What's going on, everyone? I'm Brandon, and this is the Greening the Desert Project. We're here in beautiful northern Arizona, and in a climate like ours, rain is rare but powerful when it comes. We have earthworks that are designed to slow, spread, and sink rainwater into the ground, preventing it from running off the land and taking precious topsoil with it. And we have a simple goal: taking advantage and transforming every storm into a recharge for the soil and our water table. We do have a monsoon season here, and when the monsoon season hits, the rain can feel overwhelming. But with the right systems in place, it becomes one of our greatest allies. And it was after the last monsoon season, we saw really impressive results of how our earthworks absorbed and redirected the water. Now, we do have a variety of different earthworks around the property, so I'm going to show you all around the property our different rainwater harvesting practices and techniques that we have. First off, we have our swale. If you don't know what a swale is basically just a ditch with a giant berm that sits on contour or on level ground basically here, so that when the water flows into this area and is stopped by the mound, all the water sits level. Enables all the water that's gathered to basically soak in at the spot as opposed to running down the way like it usually does. You'll really notice all of our swales that we have so far aren't planted, nothing's growing on them, except for maybe a few swales that have kind of some weeds on them. But otherwise everything is pretty bare, and that's a testament just to our climate, how dry it is. We're also advocates of letting our swales sit and reacclimate and reestablish themselves so that when we do go to plant, there's more biology, there's a bit more activity that's settled and not so disturbed. Most of our swales have already gone through a full monsoon season, so they should be somewhat established to the point where we can actually start planting grasses this early spring. We're also making use of basins, which are simply just large depressions in the ground that are taking a lot of the overfill from the swales or any other earthworks that we do have, and they're able to gather these up, which we have some of these basins that have no liner, so the water soaks directly into the ground, but then we're also establishing other basins that do have pond liners in them so that we can harvest and store all of that rainwater, and potentially the groundwater that sheet flows across it. But that's one big thing with all the earthworks that we are doing here is we're only 1 year into this project. So all of the earthworks that we have right now isn't the final decision. We actually have many more plans, many more basins to do, and many more swales as well. We do have throughout the property what a lot of people are calling demi-lunes or half-moon structures. So we have kind of an exaggerated half-moon structure, but it's also that there's so many different labels for ultimately the same structure, which we can call it a basin, we can call it a demi-lune, a swale. The basics of all these structures is essentially slowing, soaking, and stopping as much water as possible. Probably need to touch on just a big point that we have so many rocks on this property, which poses a problem, but also a solution at the same time. Because in the sense, we have all these different natural materials that we can use on the property, from the juniper trees and branches to the sand and gravel that we have, all the way up to these giant rocks and boulders. But it comes with all these rocks that we're able to see actually the examples in nature of how the rocks are stopping and slowing and allowing more grass to grow. So we're able to use these rocks in the same way that nature is in stopping and slowing a lot of the water around here. Which actually brings me to the next structure. And speaking of rocks, which technically speaking isn't an earthwork for rainwater harvesting in the same way as the other earthworks around here, but this is actually an Earthship-inspired passive solar greenhouse design, which will be back buried on the west, north, and east side of these walls, which are made of gabion baskets, along with the rammed earth concept in the middle core. But it is with all the berming that it does act in an earthwork fashion, diverting water away from the structure into earthworks and basins that we have. So if you want to know more about the gabion wallopini, you'll be able to click on the video up in the corner here, and I'll also put it in the description box below. The rolling dip, or the water bar, is something that a lot of people know, but also a lot of people don't know at the same time. It's a rainwater harvesting structure that acts somewhat like a culvert in the sense that it's simply a berm that is on a downward slope. So it's able to direct the oncoming water away from the road and thereby preventing a lot of flooding and the road getting all mushy and stuff like that. We're not 100% finished with the driveway path yet, but we also have the ultimate permaculture driveway series to document and show how we're implementing permaculture techniques for stopping and slowing the water on the roadway. But I want to check out this other earthwork that most people don't know about and is very undervalued, which I actually really appreciate it. And this is my absolute favorite technique, and it's because we have the abundance of rocks here that we're able to do what's called the Zuni Bowl. And if you don't know what a Zuni Bowl is simply a rainwater harvesting technique that basically slowly fills up the bowl and allows sediment, debris, organic matter, and stuff like that to be able to settle and be captured by the bowl. And then in turn, the bowl, when it overfills, creates more of a level sheet flow of the rainwater, and so being able to soak more and more efficiently the area after the Zuni Bowl. And that's the best part, because the sediment, the organic material, all the stuff that we're capturing in the Zuni Bowl, we're able to use either in mixing in our compost to create our own soil mixture. We're also able to top dress our existing swales and other earthworks around here with this fertile stuff. But with the rocks, they're also blocking a lot of the sun and the heat, thus creating a mulch essentially for more plants and vegetation to grow. As well as we've got a huge concentration of water to be able to soak into the ground for all of the vegetation. Just similar to the swales, the basins, and everything else, and harvest all the rain that we can. We're really trying to capitalize on the rainwater catchment because of our climate, because of the lack of rain that we get. We average about 12 to 14 inches of rain annually. And what's really great about knowing all of these techniques is that once we know kind of the basics of everything, once we know the simplicity of the structures, how to build them, then we can get a lot more creative and artistic with our landscape and use these concepts to create a more beautiful landscape design as opposed to just a strictly functional design. And that's where you'll see the variety of techniques that we've used in combination with each other. We have examples such as our swale that connects to our Zuni Bowl, which then further connects to our culvert pipe and over to a secondary Zuni Bowl, which then connects to a further swale and other basin. So there's all these different techniques that we can combine and create custom to our landscape and to our own needs and our own goals that we have for our properties. I'm all squinty, I got the sun in my eyes. Now we've got plenty more Zuni Bowls to build around here, but we've also got smaller rock-based earthwork projects, which include little rock check dams and little rock Zuni Bowls and all the different kinds of rock structures that we can get creative with. So we've already made a couple videos on the few Zuni Bowls that we've built around here. You can check out those Zuni Bowl videos in the link above here, or I'll put those in the description box too. All right, we covered all of our earthworks. So if you need a reminder of what all the earthworks we have, just rewatch all of this again. But last year was a pretty exciting time during monsoon season, but it was also firsthand experience of seeing all of the earthworks that we had already just chiseled out and seeing everything filling up, just seeing the effectiveness overall of all of the earthworks that we've done so far. But it's after the monsoon, seeing after the rains end, that only the stuff that's already established was growing, but there's still all of these bare areas that need regreening, that need replanted of different grasses and vegetation. So we're here to help with that altogether too. I'll also be slowly adding organic material as well as compost. I actually made a previous video talking about our rotational grazing and the intensive rotational grazing that we are doing on the property here. Of course, there are areas of improvement. We've learned and we're continuing to learn and observe our landscape, the interactions with the rainwater, as well as looking back on our video footage to observe and see the different areas where we didn't have earthworks going, as well as looking at the outline earthworks that we do have that aren't 100% finished, but it gave us the chance to at least observe the interaction of the rain, and it gave us the opportunity to see where we did need to make adjustments or where we need to add more earthworks. Of course, we've got plenty of adjustments and additions to make to our landscape and the continued planning of our landscape so that we maximize the efficiency and the productivity of our landscape with harvesting rainwater and all the different permaculture techniques that we're doing around here. Because we probably had certain basins not deep enough or swales not completely finished with the exit of the water, but also a lot of these other places that don't have any earthworks that definitely could use it. And it is the fine tuning and adjustments that we will be doing that will make our whole system, our whole landscape, that much more effective and that much more productive. Now we are situated on the uppermost portion of our property, which is the higher elevation. So we actually do have further earthworks, including swales, basins, Zuni Bowls, all that stuff, to actually plan out on our higher portions of our property so that we're slowing that much more water. There'll be a lot of these key additions and design features that are going to enable us to harvest pretty much every last drop of rainwater on the property maybe. Now, along with all of the earthworks, we actually have garden beds where we do plan to do veggies, more fruit trees, shrubs, bushes, etc. Right here we actually have one of our stone terraces that sits on contour, enabling it to stop and slow the rainwater, so we're getting more water penetration into our bed. And since we've got the example of what a rock terrace looks like, we've got enough space to do a Zuni waffle garden. That's what we're doing next, so watch that video next.